world, he simply cannot compete with a person that is beyond the page of his own fiction. If you're not convinced, maybe this will convince you. Grant Morrison or any other writer for DC Comics could go and visit this attraction and fuse with Goku. So there you have it, guys. Goku, Cumber, etc. They would all get bodied. So what makes God Fusion Goku any different? So as mentioned, this movie attraction in Universal Studios in Japan is what features God Fusion Goku fighting against God Broly. A fan name that has been given to this Goku is Yuku, because ultimately this version of Goku fuses with you. Now this attraction is actually the second of these attractions, and it is actually following on from Dragon Ball Z, the real 4D, which also took place at Universal Studios, but in 2016. It featured a recreation of Super Saiyan Goku vs Frieza. So these 4D attractions are starting to build up a storyline of their own, and in this particular one, you see Super Saiyan Goku vs Frieza. Obviously, it's Super Saiyan Goku, but ultimately, Super Saiyan Goku is knocked through the fourth wall into the audience, and Frieza then goes to attack Goku, and you literally see a depiction of the audience flurrying. So basically, Frieza, Final Form Frieza in this 4D attraction, is a threat to the audience. This isn't just your regular fourth wall breaking and sensing a presence beyond that of the fourth wall. This is actually interacting with beings beyond the fourth wall, beings that live in the same realm as the author, writers or creators of this particular fiction. It's transcending the fiction they are in and even being a threat to those beings beyond that fiction. However, in the latest movie attraction, it features battles between Goku vs Vegeta and Goku vs God Broly. We even see Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta taking on God Broly. So obviously they've come a long way since that previous ride. They are far more powerful than the regular Super Saiyan Goku. That was featured in the first Universal Studios attraction against Final Form Frieza. It goes without saying, Super Saiyan Blue is a lot more powerful than regular Super Saiyan. But in this attraction, in this storyline, Super Saiyan Blue Goku is getting absolutely smoked by God Broly. This version of Goku, who is far more powerful than the previous version of Goku against Final Form Frieza, who was a threat to the audience, is getting smacked around. Ultimately what happens is Shenron appears and a wish is made, and then Goku uses Metamaran Fusion to fuse with the audience. To make it crystal clear, he does not fuse with Vegeta in this instance, as Vegeta is knocked out cold, protecting Bulma. The only information we have to date on Metamaran Fusion is in the GT Perfect files, which states that Metamaran Fusion multiplies the user's abilities by dozens of times. That could range anywhere from 24 to 96 times, and in some people's minds it's 144 times. So upon fusing with Goku, you'll see that the end result is a character that ultimately looks like Goku. That is because Goku is the dominant part of the fusion, and of course with the movie attraction, basically there are plenty of people visiting this movie attraction. The audience member side of the fusion is basically pretty much a blank slate, because obviously it could simply be anybody. For example, if he fuses with Chuck Norris, he is simply going to be unbeatable. All jokes aside, ultimately what happens is you basically use a Kamehameha and one-shot God Broly. Of course the question is a movie attraction truly canon to Dragon Ball? Well, the truth is there is no canon of Dragon Ball. If it's been licensed by Shueisha Studios, who own Dragon Ball alongside Akira Toriyama, then it's legitimate Dragon Ball content. This movie attraction has been made in association with Shueisha Studios and Toei Animation, who produced the anime. Does this mean it's canon to the anime of Dragon Ball Super? Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with the mainstream continuity of Dragon Ball Super. Does this particular story in the movie attraction make that much sense? Absolutely not. Just like Dragon Ball Heroes, this movie attraction gives characters power-ups with no coherent reasoning. But it is what it is. Goku has fused with an audience member that is beyond any of the dimensional limitations that is presented within the fiction itself. And just to clear it up, it does say God Fusion Goku 4D in the title of this video, but that doesn't mean this Goku is 4-dimensional. That is just a reference to the 4D attraction ride in Universal Studios Japan. So who wins between God Fusion Goku 4D and Cosmic Armored Superman? Now, just to clear this up, obviously we're talking about M theory and dimensions within the fiction itself, and whether they are a true representation of those dimensions. Yes, they are. They are written to reflect these models. But how can that be when the audience members who observe these pieces of fiction, me or you for example, are three-dimensional beings ourselves? Well, I'd just like to take you back to the time the fifth dimensional imps, Mr. Mixes-Pitalik and the Batmite, appeared in the real world, where basically the writers of the DC comics they basically couldn't handle it, despite being fifth dimensional imps, being technically above what we are as three-dimensional beings. In their multiverse they are fifth dimensional imps, but of course we as an audience member, as real people, are beyond that fiction and everything it encapsulates. In fact, do this. Imagine that you are part of a fiction and that there is somebody somewhere in a higher realm watching down on you as if you are part of a story. Well, that's fiction for you. Obviously, what the writer intends in his fiction goes. If he wants it to be a full multiverse, then it will be a full multiverse.
Big one. God Fusion 4D Goku. God Fusion 4D Goku. God Fusion 4D Goku.
Yeesh. That's not God Fusion Goku, mate.
Now I know this version of Goku isn't canon, but as I said before, a version of Goku or Superman doesn't have to be canon for me to use it. They just have to be officially licensed.
In Dragon Ball, what people often refer to as canon is Toriyama's continuity. Of course, God Fusion Goku isn't from Toriyama's continuity, it is licensed though, and canon isn't really a major thing in Dragon Ball like it is in comics in the Western world. The God Fusion Goku attraction ride is licensed material, licensed by all the major players involved with Dragon Ball, and is a story unto itself. It's essentially canon to itself.
That being said, I think God Fusion 4D Goku is completely overrated.
After a pretty shoddy start, I'm hoping he's going to start making some valid points now.
So the reason why people believe 4D God Fusion's Goku is above people like Cosmic Armored Superman and Milkman Man Superman is because Cosmic Armored Superman has some fourth wall awareness. He can tell when the reader is moving the comic book page.
So I just want to point this out, that Just a Robot has indeed recognised that Cosmic Armored Superman realises he is in a piece of fiction and that the audience are overseeing his story. A hyper story, I guess you could say, but fiction nonetheless, and the reader that is above his fiction is, well, me and you, the person reading the comic. Essentially, the audience, and Just a Robot has just acknowledged that.
And Milkman Man has entered the real world and forced people to drink his narrative milk.
Certainly an embellishment. Whilst I acknowledge that Milkman Man is by far the strongest version of Superman, and by the way, Milkman Man is included in my video, the 15 strongest Goku vs Superman all versions video. By all means, check out that video if you want to know how highly I rate Milkman Man. What Milkman Man did affect in the Doom Patrol story, which you can easily find online, by all means check it out because it's not hard to find. He influenced a family that was supposed to depict a real-life family to drink his narrative milk. Sure, but that family were an avatar of a real family. They are still a fictional family. They are avatars at best. Now that may be confusing, but don't worry, I'll put that into perspective. But not only does Just a Robot embellish that particular argument, for some reason uses scans of Milkman Man fighting against a character called Cave Carson. Cave Carson certainly isn't a member of the audience. I guess you could say he is a ye-old character in the library of DC characters that's essentially been forgotten. The writers have literally explained that's the reason why they used Cave Carson in the first place. I would highly recommend in the future that you use accurate scans to advocate your point.
But 4D God Fusion's Goku has even more fourth wall awareness. In fact, he fused with the audience himself, causing him to go beyond the fourth wall.
Yep.
However, he is pretty featless. In fact, this fourth wall feat really doesn't prove anything. Yikes.
The fusion itself is the feat. As we have seen time and time again in Dragon Ball, when fusing...
Vagiga Magiga. I think I pronounced it right this time.
Nope. But they get vastly stronger each time they fuse. It's essentially a plot device to allow Goku and Vegeta to fight against enemies they simply cannot beat. Not only does it put him at audience level of power, it even powers up the audience member via fusion. As Just a Robot previously just established with the Cosmic Armor Superman story, the member of the audience, me and you, are beyond the fictional verse.
For one thing, from people to Mr. Mixel-Pitalik,
Mixel-Pitalik? You mean Mr. Mix-Yes-Pitalik?
to Batmite, to Fat Albert, to Homer Simpson, to the Smurfs, to...
Wow, I didn't realise robots could get sore throats. Whilst he clears his throat, Mr. Mix-Yes-Pitalik and Batmite did make it to the real world once. Whilst I would advocate that it was a gag scene, even if we took it hyper literally, Mr. Mix-Yes-Pitalik and Batmite could not cope in the real world and left at their earliest convenience. For the record, if you didn't happen to know, they are fifth dimensional characters. Fat Albert is a gag comedy, The Simpsons is a gag comedy, The Smurfs is a comedy set in the real world, and wait for this one, guys.
Live action Sonic. Live action Sonic. Live action Sonic.
So basically, the upcoming live action Sonic movie is basically that, a live action movie. The story is just simply set in the real world, hence the reason it's called a live action movie. For example, Jim Carrey, who is depicting Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman as some people call him now, isn't a real character. He's still a fictional character being played by a real life human, Jim Carrey. There is a big difference between a story set in the real world and a story, a fictional piece that acknowledges its dimensionality within its own verse, but then it also acknowledges that it has an audience reading upon that piece of fiction. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that I even have to say this, but the story in Sonic, the verse in Sonic, even though it's depicted in the real world, isn't real. Sonic doesn't exist, Dr. Robotnik doesn't exist, neither does any of the characters in Smurf 2. The live action Sonic movie also has an audience that is potentially the same audience that could read the Thought Robot Superman comic, could visit the attraction for the God Fusion Goku ride. This argument was simply an attempt to move the goalposts, and it is simply a false cause fallacy.
Entering the real world doesn't really mean anything. At best, I would say it would give you an extra dimension, and that's about it.
So what you're saying is that by fusing with a fictional piece, not only does the fictional Goku that's fusing become a fifth dimensional being, that I become a fifth dimensional being as well? That's not it, Chief. And guess what, guys? He's about to contradict himself.
But I hate to break it to you guys, the, real world exists in the third dimension.
By this logic, that would make Thought Robot Superman a two-dimensional character, because we perceive the comic characters as two-dimensional. So by his very own logic, he is saying that Thought Robot Superman and every character beneath him in the DC multiverse is two-dimensional, because the audience member is three-dimensional. After all, Just a Robot has literally only just said that fusing with an audience member only elevates you to one higher dimension. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't recognised with fiction we are supposed to suspend our disbelief and accept the story being told to us. No matter what dimensionality the verse is said to have in the fictional piece, the author, the editors and the audience are all above that fictional piece.
It's not infinite dimensional or beyond infinite dimensional or anything like that.
Yes, but if a verse has been stated by an author or a writer to have infinite dimensionality, the audience member still transcends that infinite dimensionality. It's all about levels of infinity.
You have to look at author's intent. The 4D God Fusion's Goku movie was made as a cute little gimmick, not to show how powerful Goku is.
Whether it was to serve as a gimmick or not is irrelevant. The author's intent was to have Goku break the fourth wall by using the power of the Dragon Balls and fuse with an audience member, thus creating
the big one, God Fusion 4D Goku.
The author's intent was to have Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who was getting utterly piped by God Broly, to transcend his own fiction and fuse with an audience member.
If you want to just ignore that, you also should look at context. In the DC universe, there's the multiverse, Bleed Space, God Sphere, Monitor Sphere, the Source, and so on and so forth.
Hang on a minute, why are you stopping there? There's more beyond the Source Wall. What about the overvoid, the page itself. That's a convenient bit of information to miss out, mate.
Retcon Corp can delete the entire DC universe if they wanted to, and that includes the Presence, who's considered to be the god of the DC universe.
Yes, the fictional representation, the avatar of the retcon officers in the Doom Patrol stories can do that. But the DC multiverse has actually been explained as a dot on a page, the overvoid. Cosmic Armored Superman and everybody you consider to be beneath him all reside somewhere on this dot. Now, as Just a Robot cannot suspend disbelief, I will do it for you. Just because they're on a dot on a page doesn't mean they are two-dimensional characters or two-dimensional verses. You suspend your disbelief and you believe the story they're telling us, and we know that there are multiple dimensions in the DC multiverse. But as the DC stories themselves acknowledge that they are literally on a page, and the reader of this fictional verse, me and you, exist in a plane beyond it. The Milkman story is in fact a rogue narrative. It is beyond the DC multiverse, but it still resides on the page.
But they can't remove Milkman Man. In other words, he's beyond continuity itself. Don't get me wrong, the Dragon Ball universe is impressive. It is a small multiverse, and those universes are more than universes. They're macrocosms. So I guess you could say it's a small cluster of multi-macrocosms. And it has alternate timelines on top of all of that. But that's nothing compared to what the DC universe has.
Whilst I agree with him that till this day, based on the information we have, the DC world is far bigger than the Dragon Ball world, he is still downplaying the Dragon Ball world. The Dragon Ball world isn't just 12 universes. Those 12 macrocosms reside on top of pillars surrounding Zeno's mansion in Zeno's realm, which is significantly bigger than the 12 universes itself. But I agree, the DC world is significantly bigger, though it's irrelevant in this argument.
And the other arguments I've heard about 4D God Fusion's Goku are just plain stupid.
Grant Morrison or any other writer for DC Comics could go and visit this attraction and fuse with Goku. No. Well, hey, that was me. So basically, he featured a clip from one of my videos that ultimately, to any objective thinker who truly understands the concept behind God Fusion Goku, who understands that you suspend disbelief with fiction, that understands that the audience, real life human beings, transcend the fiction they're reading or watching, that the clip of mine that Just a Robot featured in his video actually proves God Fusion Goku is beyond any fictional character. Unfortunately, Just a Robot cannot comprehend this. His personal incredulity has led to a sense of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So for those of you who do not understand, let me put this into perspective. Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who was getting utterly smoked by God Broly, used the Dragon Balls, the power of the Dragon Balls, a fictional magical device, to break the fourth wall and fuse with the audience members. The result,
the big one, God Fusion 4D Goku,
is emerging between Super Saiyan Blue Goku and the audience. The same potential audience who could read Doom Patrol, who could read the Cosmic Armored Superman story, who can watch the live action Sonic movie, who can watch the Smurfs 2, who can watch Dragon Ball Evolution, who can watch Smallville the TV series, who can watch the live action Superman movies. You literally see the audience members using the Kamehameha themselves. They themselves also represent God Fusion Goku in this scenario. That's the difference between that and an avatar of a real world people in a fictional verse. And there is no reason why Grant Morrison couldn't attend the God Fusion Goku attraction, or the writers of Doom Patrol, or even Donald Trump. Anybody can attend this, anybody can fuse with Goku. You don't have to like it, you don't have to accept it. For most people it breaks their conventional rules of power scaling. I can empathise with that. I take no pride in saying that God Fusion Goku is the strongest, because it is a silly concept, but it exists. Now, if you own the physical copies of Doom Patrol or the Cosmic Armored Superman stories, I'm going to give you a task. Have a fight with that comic. See who wins. Well, guess what? You can go and fuse with this version of Goku. Anyway guys, dismantling those arguments was pretty easy. He really didn't help himself by lacking consistency with his arguments, showing the wrong images and sources for his arguments, and ultimately projecting his personal incredulity on the matter. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed, smash that subscribe button. Keep lending the Daishenkin in your energy. Keep smashing that like button. Until next time, Ad Astra.
I'm back, bitches. Just a revolution. If you need me now, you'll take away the biggest part of me. Ooh, baby, please don't go. Ooh, baby, please don't go.
Which brings us on to number 1 on this list, and that is God Fusion Goku. In Universal Studios Tokyo, there is a 4D attraction ride that contains its own Dragon Ball continuity. In the first iteration, Goku and Frieza broke the fourth wall, and ultimately Goku had to defend the audience, the real world's audience, from the powerful Frieza. In the second story, Goku fuses with a member of this audience. In order to fight against God Broly, he has to use the Dragon Ball's power in order to break that fourth wall, and by doing so he transcends his own story. And by doing so he goes beyond the medium which contains his story. Once again, another abstract idea. You could argue that this is a fusion version of Goku, but it is primarily Goku. But to put this into perspective, Goku could fuse with any member of the audience that is in attendance. That could be the writer of Justice League of America, could be the writer of any of the Marvel comics. As Thought Robot Superman is a literal plot device, Milkman Man is a platonic concept beyond the page, I guess you could say. This version is literally a character that is fused with the audience, or even the person that's coming up with those ideas. This version of God Fusion Goku could essentially get any comic and put it through the shredder. So that's my top 15, guys. Let me know your thoughts down on the comment section. Would you do a different top 15? Have I missed somebody out? Just my final thoughts on this particular rankings list. The top 2, Milkman Man and God Fusion Goku, do essentially break what most people consider fictional scaling. I do absolutely understand that point of view, so some people may start it from position 3, which is Thought Robot Superman. On a personal note, the only real versions I care about on this particular list are the mainstream canon versions, which is Dragon Ball Super's Ultra Instinct Goku and Rebirth Superman, essentially because their stories are still ongoing. But of course, the rest of these versions do exist, there's no denying that. Rebirth Superman's feats are very recent, so there may be more added to it. He may go up this rankings list, but for now, as of the date of this video, that's where I believe he should be placed. And of course, Superman Prime 1 million from the Rebirth stories would obviously get pushed higher due to scaling from Rebirth Superman. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this list. Smash a like on the video if you enjoyed this list, and do check out some of my Goku vs Superman verse battles where I go far more in depth about more than just their power or attacking potency. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next time, Ad Astra.